Right, Scott Shoemaker, you are running for Commissioners, District 3, opposed by the incumbent Skip Evans. Let's start out by telling you a little bit about yourself. How long have you been here in Clinton County?
31 years, born and raised here.
And you went to Frankfort High School?
Yeah, graduated Frankfort High School 2001, got hired here at the police department and been here since.
So you work at the Frankfort Police Department. Is that what you do full-time?
Yes, yes.
And why did you decide to get into politics?
Well, actually, 2008 is when I joined the city council in Frankfort. And then the state legislature, they did the right thing. They banned the practice of having city employees on the councils. So I ended up moving out in the county with my wife and then ran for county council. And it's been a short year, but I think part of the reason I'm running for commissioner is a lot of what I've seen in the last year.
So serving on the county council, you're not up for re-election. So if you lose this race, you'll get to keep your seat, right?
Right.
And your opponent, Skip Evans, is up for re-election. So if he loses, you'll take his seat and vacate your spot on the council.
Yeah, part of the primary is the Republican nomination. I believe the Democrats would have an opportunity through the summer to put somebody on the ballot. At that point, then it'd be the November election.
And why did you decide to seek their nomination then?
Well, living in that district out on the east side of the county, which it encompasses where my opponent and I both live in that area, there's a lot of confusion. A lot of people need to understand they can, from all over the county, they can vote for us, even though we live there. And so I think that's one of the messages we're getting out there. But most importantly, running is what we're seeing in county government. The lack of cooperation with the financial body, the council. It seems every issue turns into a disaster, and lawsuit to lawsuit, I think people are fed up.
So in your role with the fiscal body, you're going to be looking to move to the county executive. Do you think your skills are better suited in an executive capacity?
Yeah, since being on the city council, I always had that idea of wanting to move into a role of being in the executive branch. Whether it one day was to be mayor or sheriff or anything like that. But I think that's where I'm more involved. My skills and I think even my attitudes. I like to work with the department heads, work with the employees, and I still do. I still like to would still consider the financial matter. I think that's what we're missing now. Is I think people think the commissioners, some of the commissioners think there's this bank that never ends, and so I will have that attribute as a commissioner, and that's the cooperation I talk about with the council.
Got it. Then tell me about your role on the council currently. It's no secret, as you mentioned, that there's been conflict between the council and board of commissioners. One point of contention in particular that I'd like to bring up is the commissioner's decision to extend employee health benefits to County Attorney Tom Little. You and the rest of the council stated opposition to the idea, but then you were the one who proposed a compromise, and I was interested in asking how that compromise served taxpayers.
Well, first and foremost, Tom is a friend of mine. I like Tom. I believe he's doing good. He's doing good things as a county attorney. But that doesn't change the fact that I don't agree with a contracted employee having insurance benefits. That doesn't serve the taxpayers. And I think the biggest issue is that the compromise came in because I knew it was going to go on forever, and I think that's what a lot of things get drawn out forever, it seems. And so when I brought up the compromise and said, listen, we have no voice. We had one voice on the benefits committee. Here it is, end of the year, December and January. We're talking about adding some of the insurance when we just had negotiations. It was never brought up at that point. They'll say it was brought up, but nobody has heard it. I think that getting more council on that role, on that committee, having a better idea of what's going on, having more of a say will serve the taxpayers better.
Got it. And what other issues have gone overlooked with all the time and energy that's been expended on this conflict between the council and the commissioners?
Well, I think that the negative image that we portray, we see, we have some great news with ConAgra coming to town, and a lot of that was done. A lot of people didn't know that was going on, but there could be more work about, getting Clinton County working. We've worked with Frankfort, but we need to work with, all the small towns and unincorporated areas too, not just one particular area. And I think those are things we can look at. Is we may have the business coming in, but we need people to live here. I think that's a lot of our biggest problem is getting people to live, not only in Frankfort, but Clinton County.
And you live in Frankfort?
I live outside of
Okay.
Frankfort, yeah.
Cool.
On my Michigan town, yeah.
You live in live near Frankfort, live just outside, work at the Frankfort Police Department,
Right.
have a family, you are heavily involved with United Way. Are there other community organizations you're involved with?
Yeah, and throughout, my wife Daisy is, she's a nurse manager at the Clinton House here in Frankfort, works at St. Vincent Frankfort. Our kids all go to, obviously except the baby, go to Clinton Central. I'm involved with the Friends of the Frankfort Library. This past year, the Fraternal Order of Police, was president of that for 5 years. And I attend Kelly Crossing Church of God, since first grade. So I think that my loyalty is to not just Frankfort, but the entire county.
Got it. Now, that sounds like a lot of time commitments. Do you have the time available that you'll need to serve as a commissioner?
Well, and I think that's what the other side will try to put out there. And understand my point of view is that I don't micromanage. I think there's a reason to have department heads. There's a reason to have good people in those positions to be able to do the job. That I don't have to do day-to-day operations of those departments. Being a commissioner is not a full-time job, which has been talked about. It's a 24/7 task. That's what you were elected to do, to represent the people. And be the executive branch and help and run an efficient county government. I think when you have too much time on your hands, that's when you get your hands too deep and you cause a lot of problems.
Interesting. So what's novel about your platform? What is it that you're proposing the county do that is not currently being done?
Well, I think, first of all, I don't discredit somebody that wants to change things. I don't, if you want to go in and have new things going on at the fairgrounds, don't go in there and just get everybody all upset and lose a huge volunteer source that was out there. If you want to, they talk about financial cuts at Parkview, but they've not done one. So I'm confused on what he's pushed out there. So I would like, if you have a council that's the financial body, if you are having financial problems somewhere, you get a committee of councilmen together as well and look at these issues. If there's issues that need to be discussed, financially use them. If there's issues within a volunteer organization, talk with them, don't talk to them. And I think that we can work with the city, the towns, and everybody. And my problem is going into a room and the attitudes that are displayed by some of the elected officials. I don't think they really care what's coming from the other side. And I think that's my biggest platform is listening to people.
So apply that specifically then to the fairground situation. You mentioned that as a private entity, the public agency has stepped in and caused some problems. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, it is. The commissioners do not need to be running the fairgrounds. I think there's enough on our, the county's plate right now. I understand that we own the fairgrounds. It is our land. I understand we should have an active role in that. But you take people who have decades and decades of service to this community, having one of the best fairs in the area. As a city councilman, as a county councilman, you knew the fair was going on. You could go out there, meet people, and talk to people, and that's what it's for. So I really think if there was, I still haven't heard what types of things. You hear concerts, you hear special events. How are you going to do this? What are you going to do? I mean, are we bringing in some country music singer? Those things aren't going to happen. I want to hear specifics, and I think that's what should have been addressed before they went in there the way they did. And now you've seen the boards resign. You have a new board, and I'm glad that they've stepped up, and I hope they do succeed. I do, but I want everybody should have worked together.
So if you are elected, how would you see the relationship between the Board of Commissioners and this new fair board going forward?
I think that, I think that they're working on a lease with this board, and I would assume that by doing that, the commissioners would not be on the board, the fair board. If they're a private, group that's come in, they're leasing it for that week of the fair or whatnot. I know they've tried to get an administrator out there. Mm-hmm. We were unable to fund that. Again, another thing that they want to do that we cannot fund. We are strapped right now, and so I would like for the fair to run itself. I would love for there to be events out there, but I don't think it's up to the commissioners. If there was a way to, we use the Learning Network They were out there, they were helping the extension office, that, you know, we had to cut an employee out there because of funding. I think if you really want to do something, get them back involved, get some money back into there from other places, whether it be landfill tipping fees, to help promote that fairgrounds. We just don't need a new department in this county government.
Got it. Now, what about the financial side of things? You mentioned that the commissioners don't really often think about the council's primary concern being the budget. As a commissioner with experience on the council, what would that bring to the three-member board?
Well, you go, but, I don't want to throw them all under the bus, because I'm not doing that. But when you want to add a new insurance line item, you want these things, and it may be $3,000, but it's $3,000. Those are the things that you sit down and you talk. Say, this is what we can do. Hey, we can offer this for $3,000 more. We can add a whole different pool of people into this, instead of just demand it. And we're talking about, we've added insurance or legal fees to the mix now. We've spent almost upwards of $30,000 to stop a road that nobody wanted. I didn't want the road, but I wasn't on the council, and I think now they're trying to throw out there the council should have done more to stop it. I don't know if that's to get people to think that we actually, that I had some role in that, but I wasn't on there. And so now you've got $30,000 upwards, and then the road went from, it's been 120, now it's 140, now it's 160. They're putting numbers out there to confuse people, and I think that the people need to look at the facts, and it's dollars that are being spent for nothing. And I've said, and I'm working with the state legislator, and him and I are going to work, and we're going to get a law. I'm going to push for a law to stop minority commissioners, councilmen, whoever, not to be able to sue the county government or the city government to where the taxpayers have to foot the bill. I think,
to be clear, we're talking about a minority vote.
We're talking about one commissioner or one councilman or less than the majority, basically, on the body. You cannot bring action against the county unless you're doing it yourself. And so those are and we should stop politicians from paving the roads at the same time. So those are the things I think could have been done better, instead of legal fees and lawsuits. I mean, now the county's got a lawsuit from the former Parkview director. There was finally a lawsuit ended out here with the fairgrounds. It's just lawsuit after lawsuit.
Specifically, let's go back to the 450 West one that you just mentioned. You would like to get a law passed that would prevent the minority vote from suing the majority. Simultaneously, you said you'd also like to stop the paving of a road like
Yes.
county. How would you do that second component?
Well, I think locally you could really do it. This commissioners, and I will give them credit for doing the conflict of interest thing that they put in, but their oversight committee for that was themselves. And so, how can you decide what a conflict of interest if you are the conflict of interest? So I would say, I would push in January that we have either the county council be the determining factor if a commissioner is involved in a conflict of interest, not yourself. So when you vote for yourself saying, I'm not in a conflict of interest, that does nobody, there's no credibility.
Got it. And then another that you mentioned, the $3,000 increase in insurance premium for this new policy. You said, well, if the commissioners would have presented this policy and said, look, this is what all we can get, it's only going to cost $3,000 more, let's do it. Isn't that what they did?
Well, they did it after, again, and when we were already to the budget, we've already tried to fund everything, and that's which it was. We just asked to be involved, and I think that's why I pushed for what we did to get more councilmen on, so you should be negotiating insurance all at the same time, and not here and there, and then once the budget approves.
Got it. Well, I think we've covered a significant amount of ground here, and I'm sure that there's plenty more that you can talk about. So is there anything that is pressing that you think the people of Clinton County should know going into this election about the way the local government works, or some of the obstacles that are in the road ahead?
Well, I want people to understand that, just because you have all the free time in the world doesn't make you maybe the best person for the job. My wife and family, we have active lifestyles, kids are out and about, but and even with a full-time job, you can still do it. We can have a meeting in the evening, and I think that we can do that with the help of the commissioners, tomorrow. But I would really ask that people consider where we're at, and this is not the way. We've got to stop the aggressive, over-the-top strategies and move to make our county, change the daily, the news from controversy to to positive life here in Clinton County.
Got it. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Shoemaker. I appreciate your time, and
Thank
we
you.
look forward to hearing more from you in the future.
All right, thank you.